Hi there, my name is Solomon David, and welcome back to another episode on how to play the violin in 15 easy lessons. If you've not checked out my book, The Comprehensive Violin Method, which I have written to coincide with this free violin course. In this book, you can expect many free quizzes, tests, and pieces that you'll be able to play by the end of this course. Do like and subscribe to my channel, and I hope you enjoy. Hi there, and welcome back to another lesson on how to play the violin in 15 easy lessons. For today's chapter 3, we're going to learn how to tune your violin and prep your bow with rosin to play the violin. So very quickly, you want to take out your violin so you can follow together on how to get your violin tuned. Okay, so if you remember in our first lesson, we went through two major parts. The tuning pegs, which does the major tuning, and the fine tuners, the part where it does the minor tuning. As a beginner, you're going to use a mix of the tuning pegs and the fine tuners. So the first thing you're going to want to do is when you pluck your strings, you're going to understand how it functions. So for the tuning pegs, you have to know that each string, G, D, A, and E, is connected to a individual peg. So make sure that you follow through with your finger to the peg. So the string I'm going to take a look at now is the G string. So for me, it's connected to the very first peg on my left, if I were to face the violin towards me. Okay, so when we tune our instruments or tune the violin, you're going to be able to adjust the strings pitch by moving it up or down. So when you turn your peg forward in an anti-clockwise motion, it brings the pitch upwards. If you turn it clockwise, it brings the pitch down, like that. Of course, you're not going to be able to tell how in tune your violin is without the help of a violin tuner. So I'd recommend downloading a simple violin tuner on your phone. I'll provide a link below for Android and iOS, so do check it out. Okay, before we actually tune the violin, I'm going to show you how the Violin Tuner app functions. So let's jump right in. All right. So now that you have the Violin Tuner app open, you're going to see a page just something like that. The very first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you're selecting the correct instrument. If you see at the top of my screen page, you're going to notice that there are 3 instrumental options: the violin, the viola, and the cello. So let's quickly just select the violin. Okay, once you've done so, the second step you're going to do is you're going to want to select the correct frequency. You might have 2 options on your Violin Tuner app, 440 or 442. I'm going to suggest to tune it to 440. This is the frequency that is the most precise and in tune pitch that most musicians have their instruments tuned to. For 442, professional musicians like myself, we usually do 442 as we use our instruments more often, and not only do we use it more often, but our instruments are usually more exposed, and it causes quite a bit of volatility to our strings, causing sometimes the strings pitch to drop. So even if it drops, it will drop to a perfect 4 40. And that's the reason why we have these two options. Okay, I can't pluck the strings at the same time while I talk on the tuner. So I'm just going to show you how this works. So when you pluck the string, you'll see this red line on the far left shift. So when it moves, you're going to want to achieve a perfect note. So for example, let's select G. Did you just see the line, the red line just shift up to G? So if you pluck the correct note, it will shift to G, just like this. If your violin string is low, it will indicate on the string very low. So you'll have to turn your tuning peg anti-clockwise. Remember, when you're tuning your violin or using your tuning pegs, make sure to turn it really slow. You don't want to turn it too much or too abruptly. On the flip side, if it's very low, it can also be very high. So if your string is very high, make sure to turn your tuning peg clockwise. Okay, so once you have done tuning that particular string, for instance the G, and you've reached somewhere near the middle mark where it flashes green, you're not going to want to use the tuning pegs any longer. You can use the fine tuners to do the minor tuning. How the minor tuning screws work is you're going to want to turn it clockwise to increase the pitch. So this will bring the pitch of the string upwards, and anti-clockwise to bring the pitch down. All right, so once you have done that for each string, you can move from G to D to A and finally to E. Great. So this is how you utilize the Violin Tuner app to tune your violin. All right, so after you've used the Violin Tuner app, just some pro tips that you want to take note of is when you're tuning it with the Violin Tuner, just make sure that when you pluck the string, you'll see the frequency of the violin moving. If it's not moving, it might be a microphone issue with your phone or your iPad or your tablet, so just make sure that you have that checked. Okay, so I didn't have the chance to pluck the violin while showing you on Violin Tuner. So right now I'm going to give you an example with the G string again. Okay, I can hear the pitch and it's pretty low. So I'm going to turn my peg anti-clockwise, so towards the front. Notice how I turn it really slowly. There we go. So, okay, this is a very good example of sometimes when you turn your pegs, they're gonna slip, like how you heard that bended sound just now while I was tuning my violin. So the reason being is because sometimes your violin tuning pegs are not firmly secure. So what you have to do is not only when you tune your pegs, you're gonna want to flush it inwards to make sure that when you turn it, it's locked in so that the peg does not unwind itself. Okay, so once you've achieved, okay, that's a G, but it's a little bit flat. So what I will do now is I'll use the fine tuner and turn it clockwise. So that's the string that's connected to the fine tuner. There we go. So this is a pretty good sounding G. Great, so once you've done that, you can proceed to move on to the next string. The most tricky string to tune would be the E. As you can see, the E is the thinnest string and it's actually the most it's actually the string that's most prone to snap. So please be really, really careful when you tune the E string. If it snaps, I have had students just turn the string really fast and the string ends up snapping right in their face, and that's gonna sting quite a bit. So please take it slow and don't rush your tuning process. Okay, next I'm gonna show you how you can set up your bow to get ready to bow the violin. If you bought your violin brand new on the internet, or you got it secondhand from a friend or at a music store, you're gonna receive different kinds of bows. So if it's brand new, you're gonna have to prepare it by applying rosin. So rosin is basically tree sap. Yeah, it's gonna look something like that. So by applying rosin on your bow's hair, it's gonna help create the friction required to make the sound be produced on the violin. So if you have a brand new bow and you take it out and you start bowing and you're like, wait a minute, there's no sound coming from the violin. It's just because there is no friction, yeah, on your bow's hair. So that's why you're gonna have to apply rosin first. So if you bought a second-hand violin or a used violin, then in that case, the bow might already have rosin. So you might be able to produce sound right away. All right, so I'm gonna show you quickly how you get ready to rosin your bow. The first thing you wanna do is, if you take out your bow from your case and the hair is loose, you're gonna want to tighten that up real quick. And how much you tighten it up to? Just so much that you can stick a finger right in the middle of the hair and the stick of the bow. I think that's perfect. I use that to gauge, and I ask my students to use that as a gauge as well. Okay, so once the bow's hair is firm, you're gonna want to take out your rosin. You can get this rosin from any music store. If you don't know where to purchase, I'll leave some links below. We do have quite some different types of rosin. I'll go through that in another video. The rosin I'm using right now is a jade rosin. You might be using one that's more similar to gold or brownish, yellowish. That's a more common rosin that other violinists use. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is I usually take the bow with my bowing arm. Okay, this is a good way for you to practice your bow hold as well. If you feel not comfortable with the bow hold yet, then you can grab it just like that. That's fine as well. But for me, I'm just gonna quickly attain the bow hold and show you how I rosin my bow. So this is a good time for you to practice how you can do some, maintaining of that beautiful bow hold position as you rosin your bow. Okay, how you start to rosin your bow is you're gonna want to start at the frog. Do small sweeping strokes just like this to break down the rosin. Don't immediately just start applying it throughout the entire bow. So just do this quickly to break down the rosin. Couple strokes. That you might notice that the color at the frog, the hair near the frog starts to change in color. It might appear slightly white. Okay, once you've done that, you're gonna want to bow downwards to the tip and upwards again. Okay, don't worry, I'm using a little bit of my left hand as well to guide the bow. So I'm just evenly coating the bow. Okay, so nice, wide, and long sweeping strokes for the application of the rosin to the entire bow. Okay, I'm not gonna apply too much because actually I've already had rosin applied to my bow. If you're doing this for a first time, again, like for a brand new bow, you're gonna have to apply it for quite some time. For brand new bows, They have completely no rosin, and you're going to want to do it for quite a bit of time to make sure that it's nicely and evenly coated with the rosin. A lot of students ask me, how much rosin am I supposed to apply? Well, for the first time, if it's a brand new bow, you're going to want to make sure that it changes in color. So like I mentioned before, if you see a little bit of a whitish texture at the frog, you want to have that nicely evenly coated on your bow's hair. If you're applying it for the second or the third time thereafter, like after you start playing, you don't have to apply it that much. Okay, just a couple of strokes just to nicely coat up and make sure that your bow has sufficient rosin to produce sound will be enough. A quick way that you can actually remove the rosin if you've applied too much is you can just sweep the hair with your thumb like this at the frog. I don't know if you can see it, but it releases the rosin. So that's how I get my students to release some rosin if I feel that they have applied too much rosin. Yeah, and if you do in any case apply too much rosin, another way that you can find out is when you play, it's going to get a little bit screechy and the sound's going to be a little bit more sensitive because there's just way too much friction now. Yeah, and you're rubbing hair on metal. Yeah, it's going to get really screechy. So if there's too much rosin, again, just flick the hairs and it will release the rosin. Great, so that is the way to rosin your bow. Once you're done, if you're not playing the violin, you can just unwind the horsehair again, the bow's hair, and make sure it's loose before storing it back in your case. Great, and with that, we've come to the end of our third lesson on how to tune your violin and rosin your bow. In our very next lesson, we're going to look forward to learning how to bow the violin. So do get excited and stay tuned for our next episode. Do check out my book, The Comprehensive Violin Method, available on Amazon, that coincides with this full violin course. Inside this book, I have the exercises and quizzes and tests that you can practice for each chapter, so you know that you are following the correct techniques and methodology correctly. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.